All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. Hope everyone's doing all right today. Give folks a moment to come in. I will actually be your ongoing host for the foreseeable future with Workshop Wednesday. So you're stuck with me. And of course, I've got my trusty companion, Kim, here, who really does most of the legwork here for most of the sessions we have. But for those who've been on Workshop Wednesdays before, you may know we often start with an icebreaker question, and with more holidays coming up, in particular Thanksgiving, which I think is our most food-inspired holiday here in the United States. Wanted to ask Kim for all the Thanksgiving dishes, if you were to pick one that sort of best epitomizes and represents you, what would it be and why?
Oh man, it's not even my favorite. I was going to say mashed
You know
potatoes.
what's your favorite? Yeah, let's go with your favorite. But does that represent you too?
I don't know I hope I don't represent all the mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes is definitely my favorite side. I hope if I epitomize something, it'd be more like at least like a squash of sorts. That feels kind of put together. Mashed potatoes feels like not something you'd want someone to describe you as.
No, I guess not. I guess not. Um, Awesome. I thought for myself, I'd probably go with a casserole, maybe just because there's a lot. I have a little bit of everything, different things there. Green bean didn't feel exactly right. I had trouble thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to be a green bean either.
Yeah.
Stuffing feels like a librarian, so I don't know if I'm stuffing, but
Awesome. Well, we hope everyone has a great holiday. We'll be off next week and then pick up again following the Thanksgiving holiday. But for today, we'll be talking about manager best practices in Map My Customers. So Kim's going to drive and talk about some of the things that we think are best practices in MMC. But just to start things off, we recognize sales managers have some of the toughest jobs and out there, particularly for field sales teams. You're managing a team that you may not see all the time in very different places. And you have to motivate them. You have to understand their activities, be able to coach and give them pointers, one-on-ones, be able to easily track and understand how they're pacing in terms of visiting existing customers, prospecting new business. So there's a lot of priorities out there. And so, with that, you may also be carrying activities and managing a small book of business yourself too. So there's a lot to balance. And so we have identified a few key things that we think where MMC can really help and make sure that it's a little bit easier for managers just to be able to understand your reps' activities, understand what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and then also in the big picture, how they're pacing towards your goals to make sure you're getting that information for you. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kim to talk about a couple key things. Here we'll be looking at the planner to be able to understand what reps are doing on a weekly basis, the different reports, the stack rank exports, and then if time allows, we'll take a look at deals as well. So with that, no further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kim.
awesome. So I am going to start us, like Justin said, on the planner. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and we will dive right in there. A lot of familiar names, people on the call today. But if you do not know me, just a quick intro. My name is Kim. I'm one of the training and onboarding specialists here at Map My Customers. Please do ask questions. The way that the webinar is formatted, the easiest way is to throw things into the chat or into the Q&A option. But if you raise your hand, we're also more than happy to let you kind of come off and ask that question as well. So from a managerial perspective, there are a lot of managers, like Justin said, that are working in the field. You've got your own book of business, but for the most part, the manager functionalities and features focus in on the web version. So maybe you use the app while you're out in the field on an iPad or on your phone, but when you kind of switch into manager mode, you might flip over to the web version. Some of this can also be done on the mobile version. The planner here actually does also work, and you have access to your reps day-to-day on the planner as well. This is represented in mobile by the activities button in the bottom right corner. Here on the web version, it is in your top navigation bar for planner. The major way we see managers using the planner is kind of from a scheduling perspective and understanding what your rep is doing out in the field. Whether that's looking back and saying, okay, well, what did you do earlier this week? Or what did you do last week? Or if you've got a scheduling system or where you kind of want people pre-planning and setting up reminders and follow-up activities, you're able to see that and kind of interact that way from the planner view, which is just going to give you a calendar example of what is going on. You are able to link an Outlook calendar here as well. So if it is helpful to see things like internal meetings, filling gaps, or other priorities, admin work that they might be logging on that calendar, you can see that here as well. One big note here is if you've tried to use the planner before and previously it just threw a lot at you at once and you said, you know what? Not really my thing, not really useful for me. We have made a slight tweak here where as a manager or as an admin, by default, you're just going to see your own calendar. Previously, we were throwing everyone's calendar on at once, and it got really hectic. But you can now come in and opt to see who you would like to see using the little filter on the left side of the screen, where I can come in and say, okay, well, today I'm actually going to be working with Harry. I want to see what he's been doing. I know Monday is an admin day. So yeah, that's expected that he made calls on Monday. Oh, he's meeting with Mount Sinai later today. I should call him and give him some pointers. And you can see the calendar view here, just kind of breaking down when are they making calls? Are they out in the field midday? Do they spend their time doing their visits in the morning? If you look at their calendar during the day and they have no activities, and then at the end of the day, you notice that they've backlogged all of them, maybe a coaching conversation to go in and say, hey, why aren't we checking in as we're going throughout the day? Or, hey, we're a pre-planning team. Why don't you have anything scheduled for Friday? So the calendar view just lets you work from kind of a scheduling perspective and understand the timing and understand what types of activities are happening within a calendar-like view. You can use different filters on this as well. So if you want to look at the calendar and filter down by knowing that they're supposed to be doing certain presentations, you should be doing 5 presentations a week, I can come in here and even further filter by things like the activity type. I know that we're supposed to be doing X number of visits a week. Show me Harry's calendar, but just with the visits on it, or just with a training on it, or whatever types of custom activity types you might be created here. This will also work with any of your custom fields that you might have on an activity, different date ranges, lunch expenses, things like that. You would be able to filter down this calendar view here and also see the equivalent of this in a list view. So if the planner view is not really working for you, but you want to see what Harry has done from a list perspective, you can also see it this way. There are some cool new areas of the map, the list view, this particular activities list, where you can now go in and quickly download this list, this configuration. So if you added on some filters and say, yep, I just want this in an Excel, you can now download this information very easily using this download button on the right side of the screen as well. So just some enhancements, some things that have changed on the planner, and also kind of highlighting different ways we see people use this. Again, a lot around really just understanding where people are, where they're spending their time, and seeing how are they kind of logging that into Map My Customers from a timing and scheduling and calendar perspective. You can also see on the left side of the planner where activities were being logged. So if I was expecting Harry to be in Manhattan this week in New York, I can say, yep, that is as expected. But if I knew he was taking a trip out to Indianapolis and all his activities were in New York, I might say, what happened? Did that trip get canceled? What's going on? Why are you not kind of where we were expecting you to be this week? This is something that you can also see from other areas of the reports section that we won't dive into today. But this is kind of a smaller version of the activities in the reports section. I don't see any questions so far, but yeah, Justin, anything to add?
No, sorry to interrupt. If I could add a couple things here. One thing is on the list view, With that, there is the ability to hover and see the notes easily. So if you kind of want to just understand, what was discussed, you can kind of just see the notes very easily in one place. So if you wanted to, scroll through to see what activities did a particular sales rep do, you can kind of just get a sense of this in one place. As Kim mentioned, it's very easy to export, but this is like within MMC, you can just take a look through this. And just more globally, as I think through this planner or list view, if I'm a manager, two ways I might do it. One, I might look at this activity for all my reps at a certain time, either maybe beginning or end of the week. Take 30 minutes to review and to see that, or potentially, before each individual's one-on-one meeting, take 5 minutes to take a look to see how has their last week been, how is their upcoming week looking. Before a one-on-one meeting, it'll give me some things to talk about them. I could read through the notes and understand, hey, here's an opportunity where, maybe you had a conversation, but then there's an additional opportunity that I see based off of my experience, and I want to make sure that they understand and maximize that. So just some thoughts about how to actually put this particular place in this particular feature into practice.
Awesome. If there are no questions on the planner, and again, you can always bring us back here. We're more than happy to go back through. Again, I can layer those users. I could layer somebody else on top and see kind of how they're comparing. I can see that they're different colors. I see Harry, I see Ron, see the different colors representing my different reps. So however you want to visualize this, if you're trying to plan something and want to find, okay, who has availability, who has a gap in their day, I can layer multiple reps on top of each other. So a lot of different ways to utilize this calendar. But again, if previously you kind of stayed away because it took a long time to load, there was a lot on the calendar, we have made some tweaks to make that a little bit better for you guys. The next area I want to go into is probably the most popular way for a manager to look at data, and that is the stack rank. The stack rank lives in the reports section under the performance reports. Here you can find the stack rank, and this essentially works as a leaderboard for whatever date range and whatever metric you're interested in looking at this time. The stack rank is something that by default settings is accessible and available to actually every member on your team. If you would like to limit it to managers or you would like to limit it to the admin, you are able to do that in the settings as the administrator. So the administrator can make that a decision. But if this is something that you want the team to take some time to look at independently as well, this is actually accessible at the bottom of the mobile screen. Team members can see information for their own team. So Harry and Ron would be able to see each other as they are both on the Gryffindor team. Draco would not be able to see their information because he is on the Slytherin team. So you are able, though, to instill a little bit of friendly competition amongst your sales reps. They are salespeople. They're inherently pretty competitive. But if you say, hey, Ron's got the crown today, Ron's got the crown for this week, whoever's got the crown at the end of the week is, going to get a shout out, gets an email, gets a gift card, whatever it might be. But especially as you're getting started or as, we're trying to roll out new features, gamification is always a fun kind of helpful way. And the team can see kind of where they stand. And a lot of times there are teams who just inherently get competitive within each other and say, okay, Harry's going to do 2 more activities. He's going to squeeze in a couple more calls to make sure he gets that little crown. The stack rank here is, again, a built-in leaderboard that's going to kind of aggregate the metrics. So it is an easy way to look in and say, okay, our number is 15. We want 15 activities a week or 10 check-ins a week. Who is hitting that metric? You can then come in and scroll through your list of reps and say, okay, who has done that number of activities? Who has not done any activities? Or whatever metric that you are interested in looking at. I want to open up the chat. Can we filter out a rep? So unfortunately, at this point, you can't filter them from the stack rank. They will just live on the stack rank. So if they have a different role or something, you've got someone who makes a lot of phone calls because they're just in a different role, they will ultimately be on this stack rank as well. But you can apply a couple of different filters onto the stack rank. So great question that kind of segues us into some filters. The first one is just very generally at the top what you are looking at. If I would like to focus in to a specific team, I want to see how the Gryffindor team is doing specifically. This will now filter it down, and I will only see the people listed on the Gryffindor team. If I'd like to focus into the entire organization, but by the teams, I want to see, is the Northwest team doing better than the Southwest team? Is Gryffindor doing better than Slytherin? I can come in and see how the teams are stacking up against each other. You can also filter what metric you're looking at. If I want to look at this, and I'm going to go entire organization by rep, but I say, no, I'm not looking for the activities. Yes, that's awesome that Ron has done 5 activities, but maybe he's gone in and done a lot of phone calls. And we say, I really want to see those check-ins, those in-person interactions. Right below where it says top performers, there is a drop down that lets you choose the metric you're interested in. So if there is an initiative where we're doing a lot of prospecting, I want to see who's adding new companies in. We are getting started with deals. It's a new feature we've rolled out internally, not my customers, but if that's something you've kind of rolled out at a later date, you can see, okay, who's adding the most deals, or who's adding the most pipeline, who's putting in the most monetary value here. You can see routes, you can see lots of different metrics. And as you change that rule, you'll see it changes the actual background, it changes the stack rank here. So I can see, okay, Ron is doing the most check-ins as well. He was doing the most activities, but he's also doing the most in-person activities. And you can see how people, again, are stacking up here. This is also a good place to look in and see who is, again, not hitting a specific number. If we know we're looking for 5 check-ins a week, or we're looking for 10 activities a week, you can very quickly scroll through and see where the cutoff is and say, okay, everyone below here has not hit that metric. We know just number-wise, they're not doing what the expected goal is there. Lastly, depending on how you might like to kind of check your metrics, is it a weekly goal of 15 activities? Is it a monthly goal of 100 activities? You can change the date range here. So looking at the filter up at the top right corner, November 12th through November 18th, we are looking at the active week. If I say, no, I'm reporting back for a previous quarter, a previous month, I can come in and change the different ranges here. So maybe it's not November. I want to look back on October and see how people had done in the month of October. Again, it's all going to reflect and update what is going on in the background here. You are able to download this. So if you want a hard copy of this, just as something that we see people do a lot of times I've seen team members or managers send this out to their team on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis to just kind of add a little bit more oomph behind it of, hey, I am looking at this. I am seeing, did you hit the metric? Who's at the top? Who's at the bottom? So it is something that you can download. And then if you'd like to screenshot this portion and send it out, whatever you like to do, because like I said, it is in the mobile app. It's actually something that not a lot of people often stumble upon in the app because it's all the way at the bottom of the home screen. So if you want to just reinforce with your team, hey, I'm looking at this and you did not hit that 10 expected check-ins this week or this month, you are able to kind of blast that out to people. You can download it, get it into an Excel. Alternatively, if you say, I don't want to have to download this every week, you can choose one metric and actually get that in a weekly scorecard. So the weekly scorecard does do an element of stack rank of the leaderboard. You do have to select one metric that you would like downloaded, but if that most important metric to you is check-ins, you can get a snapshot of the stack rank every single Monday of what happened in the previous week. The metrics are individual, so you can't choose for everybody, but once you've selected one, it is going to be maintained. So if you say, okay, everyone should be looking at the check-in metric, or everyone should be looking at routes created, and Nicole, we can help there too, with instructions or with support if people are having any issues selecting their own metric. But they are able to select their own, but it will persist once you've selected one. So if I do come back over, the stack rank will kind of maintain the one I've selected last. And then again, if there is one that is more important, you could elect to do that team leaderboard option that gets sent to you on Monday and then forward that out to everyone or something like that. Awesome. Great questions there. Again, this is probably a fan favorite. There have been requests to add some additional filters, some additional rules. So definitely heard on some of those. But this is definitely a fan favorite to kind of look at and very quickly just make those, okay, are you hitting that metric, yes or no decisions? The third option or third kind of reporting element we'll take a look at is the exports. Oh, so my options on the leaderboard are grayed out. You'll just need to opt in on the scorecard right at the top. So mine are grayed out here because I've not opted in, but once you hit this blue opt in to weekly emails, it should kind of flip that to active. The exports here are another way to get data out of the system. So again, like we said, we completely understand that as a manager, you are doing a lot of different things, a lot of different roles. And a lot of times people say to us, Kim, it's hard to get in there every day, or it's hard to get in there once a week to even look at these reports. I just want it in my inbox. That is where exports can come into play. Exports will also allow you to dive deeper into a lot of the nitty-gritty details. Is it the notes that they've written? Is it the custom fields that you're capturing? Is it the check-in information? So if any of those kind of resonate with, you know what, I do need a little bit more detail. It's helpful to see that Ron did 5 check-ins, but did he check in from his couch? The exports are really going to help you dive into the nitty-gritty details of what's going on there. When I come in here and click my create export option, I'd say the most common export that people are running is either a daily or a weekly activity report. You can do monthly, but really whatever resonates again with as a manager, how often am I referring to and taking a look at these particular activities. When I'm creating my export, you can choose what type of export you're creating. In this example, I'm going to create a weekly team export that maybe just on Fridays or Monday morning, I'd sit down and look at, okay, what happened this week? When you're building out your exports, you can choose the columns that you are interested in. So this is, again, what details do I want coming into my report? What information do I want at my header? As a note, we did do a workshop Wednesday specifically on exports. There's also articles and videos on how to export as well inside of our knowledge base. So if you're looking for more a step-by-step breakdown, there is that available as well. If I go through today and it was a little bit speedy for kind of trying to build your own after the fact, and then you'll also get this recording. But when I come in here and select my columns, maybe I'm really interested in the check-in information. Maybe it's something that I say, I really do want to verify and make sure my team members are where they're saying they're going. So I add in the check-in distance delta, or I add in the verification status. You also have the option to, again, add in any custom fields. So lunch expenses, or presentations, or trainings done, or swag dropped. All of that can be added as a column if that is living in your Map My Customers system. You can see all of the different options here. I'm just going to select a handful of them. But now when I come back in here, I'm going to see the check-in distance delta, the verification status, and all that information listed in here. To talk a little bit about the check-ins and how you might run through the information going on here, the verification status will have 3 pieces of information. A verification will either be true, it will be false, or it will be blank. A blank is indicating that a check-in was not done. If I look at this here, I can see that this was a visit, or this is a visit, but it is not actually logged as a check-in. It was logged as a manually created activity. Or maybe it was a phone call. A phone call is not going to be a check-in. A check-in is what we do when we're in person. And so you're not going to have a verification status if it was not a check-in. You will also have true or false verification. The check-in standard radius is 100 meters, which is about 0.06 miles. And so if you have not adjusted that, some people choose to make that a little bit larger, especially if you've got big parking lots, they've got different facilities. You are able to change that as the administrator. You will see though, were you within the range? So maybe I come in here and I say, I'm going to actually turn off the assignee name and turn on the assignee email. I see that Ron was my leader this week, but every single check-in he did, he wasn't really there. Or maybe for me, there's a 1 mile or so leeway. And I say, okay, he was close, but why is he not doing them when he's there? Maybe I connect with Ron and he said, oh, I did them at lunch, or I forgot to do them. And so I did it when I remembered. But you can see here those distance and whether or not it was true. I can look at this one and say, you know what? I am really doubtful that Harry was at this account because he was simply very far away. So you're able to come in and see and understand those different metrics. If this is not your style, it is not something you need to use. But if it is, it's helpful information to understand, is the team logging activities while out in the field? Something else you can use to capture that is the source. We will capture, are people logging this on mobile or on web? So if you've got one rep who is always really far away or just never seems to be doing the check-ins, and you look and they're all logged on web, as a manager, you can kind of go in and coach and say, hey, like, we're expecting you to log your check-ins, use the tool while you're out in the field. It looks like you're logging all of your activities from the laptop when you get home. Any issues, any training needs there, and we're able to kind of step in and coach and instruct people and make sure they're using the tool as you personally, as a manager or as your company expects them to be using it. Once you've created the header and the export that you would like, you can save this. This will persist forever. You are not limited. You can make as many exports as you would like. But if this is something I'd like to receive weekly, I can go ahead and get this set up to schedule send on a weekly basis. You can also always just download the export quickly. This will send it to your inbox so you can kind of refer back and see anything that's gone on in that historic export. The schedule send option will let you choose when you would like to run this and at what frequency. So if I want to run this every Friday at 8 p.m., I want to see just the nightly report or the weekly report on Friday, you can set up that criteria. I want it every Friday, every weekly on Friday. Time zone is New York. If you have a manager, you've got someone higher up, you've got just anyone else who should be receiving this report, you can also add to the recipients. They do not need to be a Map My Customers user to be a recipient of this export. This will download that Excel CSV file into your inbox at the selected time here. When you schedule this out, it will send you a net new file, meaning every Friday, I'm just going to see a file of what happened in the past week since the last report ran. So you're always looking at fresh data. I don't really care what happened in January at this point in November. So I'm just seeing, okay, what happened this past week? Questions, thoughts, concerns? The exports are very powerful, and you can use the exports to download companies, to download activities. You can use the different filters that exist in the tool that you might filter through. I could make this for specifically Ron or specifically Harry. So it really is up to you of what information you like to look at daily, weekly, by rep, by the team. And you can always take that out and build out pivot tables or additional reporting from there.
A couple thoughts I had here, Kim. One is, the exports view basically is taking the list view from the planner, but it's automating it for you. So if you don't want to have to go into the planner and then look at the list for your reps activities, you can get it delivered directly to your inbox. And then one other thing I would say is, in the recipients, as Kim mentioned, you can send it to anyone, whether they're an MMC user or not. So you could set this up to send out to your whole team, or you can, if you have individual exports. You could have one sent to each team member individually. That way they can audit their activities, make sure everything looks correct to them, that they're logging everything correctly, just kind of have good compliance there as well. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool. And if you need help building some additional ones, you can definitely contact our support team or the customer success team. We'd be happy to help get more of these enabled for you. But they're a great way to kind of set it and forget it and just get it directly into your inbox.
Absolutely. So again, yeah, this is something too, right? That once you set it up, it's there, it's running for you. You can always edit it, but you don't even have to get into the tool to look at these pieces of information. The last area I want to talk about really quickly, I know we've got about 15 minutes left slotted for this, but is the deals. So if deals is not something that works for your particular team, that's kind of the last topic that I'm going to be looking at. But if you are somebody that's using deals, whether that's in your CRM and they move into Map My Customers, or you independently have set up a deal pipeline, deals can be tracked and viewed within the web version in a number of different ways. You're able to see your deals in a table or Kanban or board view. It's going to work where you can kind of slide the individual cards forwards and backwards. And you're, as always in Map My Customers, you're able to filter this down in a way that's important or representative of what you're looking for. If in your deals and opportunities, you flag the product of interest or you flag a certain monetary value, maybe I want to come in and I really only want to see my big deals. I want to see everything that is kind of large as we're getting towards the end of the year. So I want to see everything that's greater than $5,000. Because I really want to focus in on what's kind of due to close towards the end of the year. That's bigger, they're larger opportunities. Maybe I want to filter this down by the product or by a certain stage or a certain creator. All of these are different things that you can use to filter down. And similar to before, when we described maybe using the planner for a one-on-one, this is something else we see teams do, especially if the deals and opportunities are part of your process, is just sitting down with your rep and understanding, okay, what is in your pipeline? What is going on? Where are we stuck? Where are your bottlenecks? Where can I, as your manager, step in and help out? Maybe as you're looking through your pipeline, you see a lot of records or a lot of deals that were due to close in 2022. And you say, you know what, it's probably time to clear out and clean up some of the deals that are old and that are no longer needed in here. You can use this time to kind of focus in with your rep, sit down looking at their deals in their pipeline, in a list view, or in a forecasting view. So if I've got a lot of things that don't have a closing date, maybe I sit down with my rep and say, okay, when do we expect this to close? Is this something we expect to close before the end of the year? We can open up the card, look at what's going on, add information, edit information, and kind of work together to clean their pipeline, maintain their pipeline, and make sure that they are following up as expected and moving what's important down the line. Do you see there's a chat? Let me see.
Yeah, I can take this question, Kim.
Awesome.
I'm not sure everyone's visibility. It's a question from Christian around training for field sales reps. We do offer training for field sales reps. Kim actually hosts weekly office hours that people can drop in as well. Some of these workshop Wednesdays have been more focused topics for field sales teams. It looks like you may not be using MMC yet, Christian, but in which case, typically for team accounts, when they get signed up with us, there's a training and onboarding process that's involved for individual teams. So we can follow up with you more on individual needs that you may have.
And then question here, can you bulk move deals from one stage to another? Yes, the list view is the easiest way to make bulk changes. So definitely as you are cleaning up pipelines, as you're kind of clearing things out, if someone said, you know, yeah, these two here that were supposed to close in 2022 or this one here that does not have a closing date. I just want to bulk close these out. Can come up to the top and bulk edit. Maybe it's making a change to the closing date. I want to push it into the current year. Or maybe I want to bulk edit something like the stage. You do need to make sure that the funnel is selected, but here you can say, okay, these are in the sales funnel, and I just want to move those all to close lost, because the stages are directly tied to the funnel. You just need to select that funnel option, which is a little bit kind of hidden away there. But if I go ahead and bulk edit those, I can now see that those 3 that I've selected are now in that lost stage because I've kind of updated them in bulk. So definitely right, for a data cleanup perspective, the list view is a good way to kind of filter through and bulk make those changes as needed. So wanted to do a quick highlight there. Just to wrap up, I do want to highlight one other thing that's kind of future planned. And then Justin, I know you were going to talk a little bit more about custom reporting as well. Future plans, a lot of times people have given us feedback to say, well, can I get all of that just in one spot? And that is something we're looking to work towards, individual kind of rep profiles or report cards, where you'll be able to focus in on your rep and look at their activities and their deals and their information and how they're trending. So definitely something we are working towards from a standard reporting perspective, is putting a little bit more of a report card element behind it. I do not have a timeline for that at this point in time, but something that is currently in kind of the product phase, in the research and development phase from our side. And then Justin, I will flip over to you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kim, for everything you covered today. Just thematically, some things I sort of think through for manager best practices here using Map My Customers is you want to look at the health and activity of individual sales reps, and doing that on a regular basis. So, whether it's weekly, monthly, or whatever the right interval is, looking at individual performance, the planner is a great resource for that, to see that. Then on big picture, you want to see how's your team progressing towards metrics overall. The stack rank is a great tool for that as well, able to see how people are progressing towards overall metrics. And then the third thing would be automating and making it as easy as much as possible. And that's where exports come into play there too. And with deals, I would say that kind of goes back to the planner, just sort of looking at individual rep activities. So you look at the individual performance, look at the big picture metrics, and then make it as easy as possible for yourself to get the data. And then lastly is on the making things easy to get the data. We do offer custom reporting. We actually did Workshop Wednesday 2 weeks ago on that. So check out the recording on that. It's on our YouTube page if you're interested. But custom reports allow you to build reports specifically on things like, hey, how many activities have done with specific data I have? So maybe you have a field on activities that indicates, did someone meet with the decision maker, or did you leave samples behind, or something like that? You could get a report specifically to see how many activities were completed when the rep in the last week or whatever time period where they left samples behind or met with decision makers, and really base it around your data. You can make charts, graphs, get tables. It's a very powerful tool to be able to get more information. But everything we showed today is kind of included for everyone's MMC account, and we hope it's been helpful. So we'll stay on just for a quick minute or so if there's any last questions, but otherwise we really appreciate you joining us today. We hope things were helpful. Would love to hear best practices you have developed as managers on using MMC, so please share that with us via email afterwards or comments on our YouTube page. But otherwise, we appreciate you taking the time and joining with us, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks.